What if worship were the first step in rebuilding your life? In the book of Ezra, when the people of God went back to Jerusalem after years of ruin and exile, the first thing they built was not their houses. It wasn't the walls of Jerusalem. It was the altar. Why? Because true restoration starts with worship. So when life is going crazy, it's chaotic, everything is going wrong, you don't know what to do, don't really focus on what to do. Focus on who you worship, because worship is where it all starts. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How worship realigns your life, how it revives you, and how it rebuilds the very foundation of God in your life. I'm Valante, and thank you so much for joining me for the Sunday School Renaissance. If you have been here before, welcome back. Go ahead and say hey in the comments. If this is your first time, welcome, and we encourage you to stick around, like, subscribe, and share. This week we're talking about rebuilding the temple and rebuilding the worship at Jerusalem. And just a little history, this is coming after the children of Israel have been carried away. They were carried away from their homeland into Babylon by King Nebuchadnezzar. And they were there. So last week we talked about the kingdom being built. But at this point, the kingdom had been ruined. It was destroyed, and now they were there in captivity. So the captivity ended, and they were allowed to come home after the fall of Babylon. And now we have the Persian Empire in today's lesson. So King Cyrus the Great granted them permission to go back and start to build Jerusalem. And that's where we are in our lesson today. So when we look at this return back to Jerusalem from exile, this was a very strategic and organized process. Again, King Cyrus the Great gave them permission, but the people of God were under the leadership of Zerubbabel, and also he had Jeshua working with him. So they were unified, they were organized, and they were doing a work for the Lord. And this is what I love, because they started the process with worship, and they built the altar. The temple was not even rebuilt yet. They built the altar first. So they built the altar to worship God, and the temple was still in ruins. That's a very powerful message and example for us. Can you worship God when your life is in ruins? I've had to worship God. I like to make it personal. I've had to worship God when my life was in ruins. And you know what I found out when I did that? That worship was the first step in putting my life back together. And see, sometimes it's the trick of the enemy to make it seem like our lives are unraveling, to distract us from the worship that we owe God. I have a little ceramic thing, a tile in my kitchen, and it says, a day that's hemmed in prayer is less likely to unravel. So when it gets hard, that's when you really need to worship God. When you don't feel like it, that's when you really need to worship God. And they knew that, because again, the whole reason why they ended up down there in exile is because God allowed their enemies to overtake them because of their disobedience. So when they got the opportunity to get back home, they had learned their lesson and they were ready to worship. And so that's what they did. They built this temple to worship God. And even though it's hard work and it can even be painful, the good thing about rebuilding is the opportunity to go back to the foundation. They had even destroyed the foundation of the temple. They just brutally destroyed this temple of God. The Babylonians did this. It was destroyed. So they had to go back and relay the foundation. And sometimes that's a good thing. You know, you're worshiping, you're sacrificing, you're glorifying God. You're doing what you knew you were supposed to be doing all along. And it's a good thing that you teach our children and we teach the next generation, so that if you should mess up, you know how to go back and fix it. So after they got this opportunity, they went back and they built on the foundation of what they knew, the foundation of the word of God, the instructions, and they were in obedience to what God told them to do in the law. This message is very timely because a lot of us are in the rebuilding process. We're in what's called the post-pandemic era, and everything is different. Nothing will ever be the same as it was prior to 2020. People are still waiting for things to get back to normal. It's not going to happen. There has to be a new normal. And so as we rebuild, some people have lost family members, they've lost jobs, they've lost homes, they've lost their health. Whatever it is, there's something that we're rebuilding. And I have a few points here about the building process, how you want to build a spiritual altar and start it with worship. Build God at the center of everything. I remember when I first started my business, I don't know where I got this crazy idea from, but I thought you had to keep your business and God separate. So I didn't put God in my business. And guess what? I lost everything, every dime. So then I figured out that I couldn't have anything without the presence of God if I wanted it to be successful. And so then also to remember, God's past faithfulness. When I tell people this all the time, we get all frustrated and upset about what's going on. And I'm just like, at 55 years old, for me to just be all worried. Okay, if God's been taking care of me for 55 years, he's going to just stop? Well, is that God's retirement age? Or she's 55 now, we're done? No, that's not how God works. And when we know that he has taken care of us, right? He is taking care of us and he always will, then we don't have to worry. And it makes us remain obedient to him because we know that he knows what's best. And also, we don't want to wait for everything. I understand the concept of having all your ducks in a row. I understand that. But if you wait until everything is perfect before you worship and obey, you're never going to get there because none is perfect but the Father. So the only way that we have to come anywhere near close to being perfect is through the power of God. So you don't wait until you are right to go to God, because the only way that you can be right is through God. And I love this one. Start with what you have. My dad's, oh my goodness, he drilled this in us. He says, use what you got, make what you want. And it was funny because I went to this high-powered success strategy webinar, and they said, okay, take one sheet of paper, write down everything you have, and on the other side, write down everything you want. Now use the things that you have to get what you want. And I'm thinking, I came to this conference, my daddy been telling me this as long as I was able to hear and speak. But it's true. When you maximize and utilize what you have, the blessings that God already has given you, then he will bless you with more. But you don't want to overlook gifts and resources that you have and trying to get something else, and you just remain stuck. So those are my takeaways from the lesson in terms of how to really apply this and keep that worship at the center of our lives, because God is truly worthy. Feedback. I was in church the other Sunday, and the minister said that once you become a believer, you're a minister. All ministry doesn't come over the pulpit. And he was saying how you have no idea how you encourage and enlighten each other just by sharing with them. And when you guys comment, when it doesn't have to be telling me I'm doing a good job. Tell me what you got. Tell me your perspective. That edifies me at my core. It edifies my soul. It encourages me to keep going. And once again, there's been a lot that has happened. I feel your prayers even when I was not recording. Those of you who sent me messages, those of you who just kept praying for you, those of you who continue to send donations even when I was not recording, thank God for you. God bless you. I am so happy to be here, as you can tell. I'm going to let you go, but again, remember, worship. My worship is for real because God is worthy.